Hey, what's up, family? My name is Alexander James. I'm so excited to be here with you all and to be going over this. Welcome to our monthly stream Zoom. We're calling them Zoominars. That's what we're calling them now. We're branding that thing like that right now. We're so excited to be here. Everybody that's getting in here, please like, share, subscribe. We have some really, really amazing guests that we're going to be talking with. They're from this awesome organization. I want to say they're like superheroes. If there was a group of folks, man, who would be like the Avengers for like urban ministry, it's definitely these guys. Check the matching uniforms. All right, they got Lettermans on the way. They didn't have my size, but listen. Really
He
excited
actually
about
already
it.
has a little me.
I already know. But really quickly, for those of you who don't know, my name is Alexander James. I'm the resource developer here at UYWI. My responsibility is handling like the trainings, the curriculum, the tips, tools, takeaways, all that jazz. So I'm really excited to be leading this call with you guys today. We are UYWI, Urban Youth Workers Institute, where we want to shape, we want to build, we want to mold what urban leadership in the ministry space should be. So with that, all that said, all my stuff is out of the way. Let me introduce our guests. Would you guys do me a favor? Tell us who you are.
Awesome. My name is Brandon Allen. I am the program director for Rescue a Generation, and this is my guy right here.
Hey everybody, I am Jose Rodriguez. I'm the founder and CEO of Rescue Regeneration.
Awesome. And tell us who Rescue Generation is or what it is.
We're just a bunch of crazy people that want to we are a faith-based organization. Our mission is to provide coaching, empowerment, and the gospel to this generation in order to see cities transformed. And we believe so desperately in this generation, and we're willing to go after some of the hardest to reach students, and excited and privileged that we get a chance to co-labor with Christ in Rescue Regeneration.
Man, I love that, man, and I love the name. We're having some of those sound issues again, just slightly. Have your guy double check that it didn't go back to the default when we went backstage again. Um, Brandon, tell us about your role at Rescue Generation.
Yeah, no, for sure. So as the program director, we have the opportunity, and I have the opportunity to really kind of oversee all of our programming as a whole. We have a 10-week Success Club curriculum. We have a 52-week RECT curriculum, which focuses on social emotional learning. We also have so many different programs, and linked in that most of my focus does go to our 10-week Success Club curriculum. So I have the chance to really focus on building, establishing with students, training and equipping.
Hey guys.
Sorry, guys.
This is Cherie, creative director, and I am monitoring a audio issue. So that are watching right now are like, what is going on? So let's just take a little break.
Is it better now, or how we feel that?
No, it's still.
Yeah, we just had it set up so crazy. Yeah, we just had it set up so crazy. Maybe let's take it off the TV. Let's take it off the TV. Let's take it off the TV.
Just a moment, folks. We'll get everything together.
We've got some issues here.
Can we try this again?
Can you guys hear us any better? Is this any better?
Oh, way better. There we go.
Awesome. Okay. Awesome.
Okay, one more time, Brandon. What is your role here?
Thank you, guys. Sorry about that sound issue. So I am the program director, and what I have the opportunity to do is really oversee our 10-week Success Club curriculum. Now, we have so many different things that we do. Our REC curriculum, which is our 52-week curriculum, as well as assemblies and just different parts of what we do. But with our 10-week Success Club, I get the chance to really train our team to be equipped to build relationships with students, to handle schools in different capacities, to walk students through our programming, and also to build relationships. I know I said that twice, but honestly, what we do in our highest capacity is relationship building. We walk them through success. We coach them. We love them. We point them to the direction of Jesus. But relationships is really the heartbeat of how we get this established and get them moving forward to a closer place to where they can be connected. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Thank you so much, man. Well, with no further ado, man, let's get into it, man. I got two giants here with me, so I'm not gonna pull no punches when it comes to questions. And listen, like, our youth workers are mostly bivocational. 70% of them are married, which means they got a lot to be stressed about and happy. You know, I'm just saying, it's a lot going on. So we need to make sure that our conversation today is not just idealistic but practical, down to earth, real. So that's the case, man. I think we need to talk about Goliath, right? We know who David is, not just because he was a dope shepherd who was like, you know, killing it with who was coming to watching the sheep, because he took out a giant. Yeah. The giant that our youth workers are dealing with now is this post-COVID world. Everything is digital or physical or phygital. That's the new word we're branding that right now. They're figuring out, how do I prepare for this next school year coming out of summer? What mentality should I have? How do I rebuild my team? We saw the highest drop off of folks in ministry leaving the job in 2020 than we've seen in the last decade. Folks were able to get out of the river of ministry, and some of them were like, yeah, I don't think I want to go back. So as folks are rebuilding their team, rebuilding their volunteers, trying to get back to some kind of standing position, we want to hear from you guys. What mentality should they have? So let's start here. I think the main thing, the forehead of the giant we want to hit today is, how do we really go back and do a successful ministry? And I think the key word there is successful. So let me ask this. How should youth workers define success when this gathering with their kids? Is it the numbers? Is it, you know, how many views do I get on YouTube? Is it interactions on Facebook? Is it the stories they get? What's a win in this new world coming back into the new school year?
I love that question. It's a challenging question for the season we live in right now.
Yeah.
One of the benefits, I think, of the pandemic, if I could say that, is I think it messed up our metrics.
Yeah,
and
man.
I think that was God's doing. Imagine having 500 students and no disciples, right? And I think the measuring stick now has to change, because I don't know that you can necessarily measure based on numbers or attendance or even views or likes or viewership. I think that's one of my challenges with those that put so much energy into the social media campaign. And trust me, we do it because we see it. But I think at the end of the day, when you look at just a process that you want to take young people into, you want to engage them. But the real measuring stick is spiritual growth. It's how many young people are growing in their relationship with God, are becoming fully devoted disciples of Christ. And I think the pandemic almost forced us to go back to measuring the Bible way and not just measuring numerically. And so I think as you go back into this, yes, I think, you know, I love what a church out here is doing. They're doing really well about, you know, the one campaign and going after the one and inviting students to find that one, right? But even beyond the one, I think, man, measuring the 10 that are in your group, measuring their spiritual growth, right? Measuring their gauge on following Christ. What does that look like for them? I think if we can get to those metrics, I think the other metrics will take care of themselves. We've always seen when a young person is on fire for God, they're inviting like crazy, right?
Yeah, man.
Not because we're telling them to invite. It was like they just ate really good food, and now they want to tell everybody about the restaurant they just ate at. And so I think, man, the measuring stick now should be measuring growth mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. And if we can measure things that way, and even as an org, that's been a big part of our conversation in the last year, is what does growth look like being a part of Rescue Regeneration? How can we tell that when they started, they were here. Now they're here. And I think if we can do that really well, it don't matter if you have 5 kids or 500. If the measuring stick is about their growth, I think you're winning.
I love that, man. I love that. Go ahead, B.
No, I totally agree. I think that if we've been having hard conversations, asking hard questions, and really it comes down to what do you want to see your students go from the space they're in to the space that you want them to go to? Not necessarily how many students are going to be in place, but what is the change that you want to see happen in their lives after everything's been switched around? Like, what can you track and tangibly decide together that this journey is going to look like? And if that journey is happening, then growth is happening. Right?
Yeah,
If
man.
you come to a space to where you make a decision like this is where we're going, then growth is happening.
Yeah, man. I think that's really powerful, man. I want to go back to something Jose mentioned. You mentioned something that I want to imagine most churches around the nation probably don't measure. You said emotional health. You said mental health. And here's why I bring that up, youth workers, is the data shows that I want to say just under 500,000 young people lost a loved one in 2020. I want to just let that sit in the air for just a minute. Just under 500,000 young people are experiencing grief, are experiencing loss. And just to make it real, all of us can probably consider like a kitchen table that we were used to in our childhood. And now there's an empty chair at almost 500,000 kitchen tables. And I'm wondering if our youth workers are considering that as they go back into the new year. What happens, man, is we get so into our programs, we get so into our ideas that I don't know if we're being the best, the most responsive. So that I want to go back to that because that language, that metric, may be really foreign to some of our leaders, man. Can you help us kind of maybe not go through a whole dissertation, but how would you begin? How would you encourage a program to start measuring things like that, the health of their students emotionally and mentally?
I think that's a great question. One of the things that we're processing here, even currently, I'm sorry, my bad. One of the things we're processing even here currently is this idea that, man, asking questions, doing surveys, finding out where they are in the beginning of our time together, and then doing the same questions at the end of the time together. Now it's a very practical business type response. However, I think if the church would adapt and adopt some of those ideas, when a new student enters your youth group and you did a survey with that new person on where they're at in their walk with God, their emotional health, their mental health, right? How do you feel about others? And then you target the areas that you really want to help them grow in. Maybe it is, focusing on people's mental and emotional health. And by the end of the time that you walk through a series together, or you walk through, maybe 3 months of a discipleship program together, then you do the exact same survey again. If you do the exact same survey and their answers are the same, well, then you were just talking probably good talks and they weren't really growing. But you'll know that they're growing if their answers are different, right? Because one of the things we can trust about this generation is, especially if it's an anonymous survey, they're going to be honest. They're going to tell you how they feel, right? And so I think that's something that we can do as the body of Christ to encourage and see and track results for growth emotionally and mentally.
Yeah, man, I love that, man. We're having that audio issue creep back again right near the end, but I think we mostly got what you were saying, man. Thank you so much. Let me ask this. I think a lot of folks who are experiencing this, who are our youth workers who are getting ready to go back into the next school year, I think a lot of them really, really feel disarmed, right? So like, a lot of them are like, man, how do I come back into this new year without some of my handy dandy, tools that I've been used to. So here's what I want. Those who are watching on YouTube, those who are watching on Facebook, begin to throw in the chat, man. What are you worried about? What's going through your head? What are you thinking through? And maybe near the end of our talk, we'll be able to go through and answer some of those questions. Brandon, do me a favor. Let's check your mic one more time for me. Go ahead and talk.
How you doing? Can you hear me?
Yeah, man, it's the same issue. Is it possible for you guys to maybe just use the computer mic? Maybe just check.
Check.
Yeah, let's try to see if we can do that real quick.
Hey, everybody, just give us just a moment while we get this audio together. I will say that you guys look good, though.
Can you hear us? We may have to speak up.
I can hear that.
Awesome. You can hear it still?
Yeah.
Okay. We can keep the conversation going then. We're good to go.
All right, cool. Let's do this. I'll have you guys just project a little bit. Let me go to the next question. I know one question that a lot of our youth workers are going to be asking is, as we go back to being on site to some degree, do I still have to stream online? Do I still have to do social media? Do I still have to do Zoom calls? Can I just drop that all together now that we're back? I guess the real question is, can I just pretend like 2020 didn't happen? Can I go back to the way things were? Convince me why I can't go back to the way things were.
I can't go back to... Listen, you absolutely positively cannot go back. The world has changed. Things have shifted, and it's a privilege to engage where we are currently. We have to understand that we've been given an opportunity to really meet these students where they already were. The realization is they were already at the digital age, and we were catching up. But now we get the chance to be in the same platform, in the same space, and we get to run with them. So we should be in a space to where we want to engage dually. We don't want to go backwards. We don't want to go to what makes us feel comfortable and makes us feel confident and what we're used to. We should be figuring out, how do we continue to grow in front and grow it at large, right? Grow in front and grow at large. How do we impact here and continue to impact when they're not in front of us? What can they take home with us? There's no more pamphlets. There's no more taking home some written notes. Now the notes are in their Instagram reels. Now the notes are on the posts that we're making, or in the streams that we're having, because they get these conversations consistently. This is something that we're doing. Even if you think about this idea of media in general, right? This whole streaming phenomenon that happened, where people are no longer going to the movies as the high capacity, and they're streaming through their networks, right? They knew something shifted, and you have to be able to engage people immediately, right? Everybody knew we got to engage them now. How do we do that? So now it's a place where people have realized that we can meet them where they are. So why not meet them where they are and invite them to come to
Man, I love that. And I appreciate your perspective, man. And I know that you're not too far removed from the trenches, Jose, but as the leader of the organization, I want to imagine that there are folks who maybe feel like Brandon, who are like, man, we got to meet them where they are. And they have to go to their boss. They have to go to the ministry leader and say, hey, can I stream, or can I have the resources to do X, Y, and Z? I appreciate Brandon's perspective on the ground in the trenches. Help us understand from a program leader perspective, why can't we go back? Why do I need to train my staff on emotional learning or social media? Can you come from that perspective?
Yeah, I think it's really important that ultimately we're trying to lead a generation to a space and a place. And if we're not careful, we will only be leading ourselves or our select few. One of the things that the digital world allowed us to do was expand our horizon, expand our reach, right? It would almost be foolish of us to cut that reach off just to lead 5 people when you really could. Now, at the same time, I think there needs to be strategy behind this, right?
Right.
Because social media should be to touch a student, not to change a student's life, right? Life change happens through life on life, not through a post, not through a feed, it happens through lunch and conversations, and healing happens through hugs, right? So the goal is we go digital at large, ultimately to earn the right on a large scale to invite them into a personal relationship where ultimately we can point them to Jesus. So I think there has to be strategy around remaining digital and living in a hybrid space. But strategy is going to be really important.
Yeah, man, I love that, man. I love that, and especially with you all's organization being called Rescue Regeneration. I think sometimes folks are looking for a rescue, but they want it to be really safe. They're like, yeah, but the house is on fire, and you're like, no, that's when you run in. I think I will put it this way, man. You let me know what you think. I'm thinking, man, that Jesus is probably using some of the things that happened in 2020 to say, hey, it's time to get out of the boat. It's time to walk on water again. Let's get a little uncomfortable. Let's go risk it again. Let me think through that, man. I love that transition you brought up about strategy. So here's my next question, man. You as a UYWI certification alum, this language isn't foreign to you, man. Because again, we really want to talk practical, man. Help us understand you all's ministry funnel. And what I mean by that is like, what is your process? If some kid is on TikTok and he sees my man Brandon doing the Stone Cold Steve Austin trend, he hops out of the car, throws the water bottle, and he goes, oh man, I wonder who these guys are. He clicks the link, goes to the site, sees maybe he finds out you're at a school he attends. What is that process like? What is your funnel? How do you get that first touch kid that's interested all the way to, say, a Success Club or Disciple? What's the funnel? Your audio went out for us. I can't. What just happened?
Can you hear us now?
There you go.
All right. Sorry about that. All right. So great question. I really believe your funnel has to deal with where your target audience is. We're very clear. Our target audience is on school campuses. That's the majority of the space that we're going to put all our energy in. So here's where our funnel looks like. We created a 52-week video resource for schools to literally use that speak very clearly to social emotional learning. Now, the thing about that is that has nothing to do with the gospel. Now, I know you can stone me later for that, but I want to be really clear. We wanted to add value to the student. Yeah. That's it, period, right? So every teacher in a school can play this 60-second video and start the conversation with their students, right? That ultimately will help them grow, and it empowers the teacher to have those conversations. The next part of that funnel is our motivational speaking assembly. That's going to be a very targeted group. It could be the whole school, or it could be just one grade level, right? But that's us very specifically taking a little bit more time, having real conversations with young people in a dynamic way. And this time, in the next month, we're about to go on a 25 school assembly tour. Literally in the next month, we're going to speak to about 30,000 students. In California, which is going to be amazing. And the crazy part, Alex, is we're not talking about digitally. We're talking about they get to hear our stories. Yeah. They get to know that, how our lives has changed. Now, here's the next part of that, where we're our bread and butter, where we're going to get most of this, is our 10-week program. And really, it's a secular program, but it's discipleship. You get to spend 10 weeks with somebody that loves the Lord. And yes, we're going to talk about, winning in life and excelling and your emotional problems, but we're also going to help you heal through pain. We're going to help you celebrate your victories. We're going to help you evaluate your relationships. We're literally going to help students in a 10-week process. And this is the ultimate win for us. We spend 10 weeks with students for this one reason: to earn the right to invite these students off campus. 10 weeks, simply to earn the right to say, I want you to come to one of our events, Manhood Camp or the Takeover. I want you to come join us And that's the place where you're going to get a chance to hear the gospel. So in a nutshell, Alex, think of this. They see us on a video. Then they see us in an assembly. And then they were selected to be in a targeted group to spend 10 weeks with us. Now we got relationship. We got rapport. You know us, we know you, and we love each other. And now we've earned your trust to invite you to an event that we're hosting, where it's on our territory and we can kind of do what we want. I know, hear me out on that though. But we want to bring you so we can get a chance to share the gospel with you and try to plug you into a local youth group. And so even this year on our success clubs, our aim is to get a volunteer youth worker to join us in our success clubs in a secular program to build relationships, because there's no law in America that says I cannot invite a student off campus somewhere. And so if you have a weekly program you can invite a student to, here's what we know. We created a system that changes lives, but it's only the gospel that transforms lives. We've seen growth, we've seen behavior change, we've seen academic change, but heart change happens through the gospel. And that's what we spend all our energy doing, is earning the right to introduce these kids to Jesus.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is so good, man. Like, I mean, that many students, that many schools, like kudos to the work that you guys are doing, man. I don't know of another organization that is motivated by the gospel that touches as many schools as you do. And I think the difference is, man, and you correct me if I'm wrong, is in the way you perceive the schools. Normally, unfortunately, folks perceive the school as the enemy, as this Goliath to conquer, instead of these people to serve. And your posture, man, of seeing the school edifice as a people to serve instead of someone you're conflicting against has created these doors and these pathways. And I would even argue, man, that the 10 weeks that you use for students in order to earn the trust to invite them out, for the folks that are listening, man, and I know this isn't the direction we wanted to go, but I'm going here. How long did it take for you to earn the trust with the schools? So, I mean, you have access, man. You have access to all these schools, and that didn't happen overnight. So some of the folks who are thinking, man, maybe I need to get into schools. Let's give them give me 3 tips for youth ministers who want to start connecting the schools. From you, you can start off, Brandon.
So 3 tips for youth ministers who want to connect with schools. Number 1, be honest. You have to be honest about your intentions and understand that they're going to see through you. If you're coming there just so you can get people into your youth ministry, they're going to know it. If your heart is to serve students, they're going to know it. So be honest and come with a heart to serve young people. Number 2, come with something that shows that you've been able to know what the school needs. They have the opportunity, they have the space, they have needs. These students have needs. So don't just come trying to satisfy your own personal need for reaching students for your youth ministry, but come to serve, right? You're in a place to serve. So how can you serve the students to help them be in a space to really show that they need, and then consistency. Show up when you say you're going to show up. Yeah. Be there when you say you're going to be there. Continue no matter what the circumstances are, if they're paying you or not. But through you continuing to be honest, to express care and to serve, and to allow yourself to be consistent, those 3 things are healthy for establishing a relationship with schools. And they're going to want you back because they're going to see the students change. They're going to see them motivated, encouraged. They're going to see them connected in a new way, in a fresh way. And they're going to want to know what you're doing different that other people aren't doing, that have brought these students to a place to where now they're like, well, I'm not desiring to be suspended. I'm now turning in my homework. I'm now engaged. And now there's something in me that has a little bit of a fire that needs something more to be driven forward. Yeah.
I would add, Alex, just really quickly.
Yeah.
A couple of anecdotal stories that I think tell that story really well. I'll never forget a school we serve out here in San Bernardino. Me and Brandon did a staff meeting for their teachers. And at the end of the staff meeting, the assistant principal comes up to us and he says, I just want to say thank you. He said, I've seen you here for the last 4 years. He said, thank you for staying in the trenches with our kids. He said, most people from the faith community come in until they get what they want and then they leave and we don't see them anymore.
Wow.
Your consistency for the last 4 years has literally opened up things. And then the other story I'll tell is this, and it speaks to the consistency side. Listen, man, we're very clear on what our role is on these campuses. We're not teachers, so we're not teaching academics. We don't have a curriculum to walk through that's teaching math and science, right? So we can deal with some of the deeper issues. And we had a teacher at another school say, how many times have you seen our students in the last semester? And it's a 10-week program. At the time, it was only once a week. And so we said, well, 10 times. We saw them 10 times in one semester. He said, that frustrates me. He said, I saw more change in you seeing our kids 10 times than I saw in 180 times that I saw our kids all year long. And so he says, what are you doing that we're not doing? Well,
Wow.
we're consistent. And we're also very targeted in our conversation. We know we have something of value to add to the school that's going to help their numbers go up. It's going to help their attendance increase. And it's going to help them tell a better story that'll ultimately, I mean, can we just get real practical?
Yeah.
Create more revenue for them, right? And if
Yeah.
you're adding value in a way that's going to create more, then it makes sense that they would create space for you to have the access that we now have. But it's been 5 years of grind, of hard work and no money and pushing through to literally get to the place where we're at now, where almost we have to turn away schools at this moment. Like,
Wow.
for us, where we're like, all right, Lord, like, thank you for the harvest, but we need laborers now.
Yeah, man.
That's
And,
where we're at now.
and listen, man, like there's so much gold there, and the Holy Spirit's doing what He want to do, man. That's an excellent transition to my next question. If somebody's watching on YouTube, on Facebook, I want you to put in the comments, we need laborers now. We need laborers now. Here's my next question, man. As folks are readjusting, realigning for this next school year to go back into ministry, get back in the trenches, and really have a healthy relaunch after what we've just all been through. I know one question that folks are considering is like, we have all these folks, leave positions. What do I even look for now in rehiring for a team? While I'm looking for new hires, what are the qualities? What are the traits? I'm watching you sit next to Brandon, and here's what's interesting, man. Like Brandon speaks with almost the exact level of commitment and passion as you do. Finding someone who can echo that as much as the lead is insane, right? But so I want to imagine you. How did you pray? Like, how did you fast? Like, I know that your team just recently grew, so I'm interested, man. Like, what is your encouragement to leaders who are looking for those volunteers, who are looking for those new employees to really rescue this new post-COVID generation? What should they be looking for?
Man, that's a great question. And and I'm gonna make this really short, but let me start by saying this. Number one, this guy is a freaking monster. If you know Brandon at all, you know he's a world changer. And a part of how we got here was through both of us putting our own pride and ego down and saying we're better together than we are apart. How do we join forces? And Brendan does stuff on campuses that I could not do. Brendan is the most empathetic man I know. He'll sit and cry with kids. And I'm like, I just want you to get it. Like, I want you to change. But Brandon will sit in that pain and that struggle with them. And we've seen crazy results because of his empathy. So number one, you've got to staff your weakness. I know I'm a visionary to my core. I'm on to the next thing, right? Brandon is so like pastoral in nature that he's going to really care so deeply for these young people. So that's literally playing a huge part in this. The other thing I would say is this, and this is hard in the generation we're living in, and it's been an honest conversation that we've been having as an organization, is you need people that are not in it for the role, the title, or the money. You gotta do it for the cause. If you're applying to a position for the position's sake, you're missing the point of it. If you're applying to volunteer even for the sake of a notch on your belt, you're missing the point of it. Such a huge part of our interview process has been learning the heart of these new hires. I want to know, if I don't ever give you a title here, would you be in the trenches with me rescuing a generation? If I don't ever give you status or a microphone or a platform, would you be in the trenches rescuing a generation? And that is a hard conversation to have, especially in the generation we live in, because everybody has a voice and everybody thinks that they should be on stages. And we've been really honest, have we not?
Right.
That not everybody here is going to be on stages, right?
Yeah.
everybody has an important part to play. And I think that that's the thing. I almost despise the fact of how we glamorize platforms in the faith community.
Yeah, man.
And man, I want to bring back glamorizing the grit and the grind and getting messy with students and staying in the lives and in the trenches with these young people. So when school shootings happen again, we're the first on the scene. So when things are going crazy, they know to call the church or they know to call the faith community, because we're going to be in the trenches with these kids, and it's not about our title. We can't tell you how many times we responded to tragedy because our grind and our heart for this next generation is short. So that's what we look for: your heart, your commitment to the next generation, or this generation, I would say, and then learning to staff your own weaknesses. I need Brandon to be good at what I'm not good at. And that is not good, because we're good at a lot of the same things. And so we need administrators around us that can help us keep this thing afloat. Otherwise, RAG is a sinking ship really quickly. And so, that would be my answer on what you look for to hire people.
Man, I appreciate that, B. Let me ask you the same question from a slightly different angle, as the person kind of running programming and checking in with the folks who are checking in with the kids. What are you looking for in the people that are looking after the kids? Like, how do you care for the caretakers? How do you heal the healers? So what does that look like? How should leaders be caring for the team they have while they go into this new year?
And that's an excellent question. That's something that I had to really learn, and I'm learning kind of like as we're going. One of the greatest things that I realized is that this idea of compassion fatigue, right, that people endure, especially due to pandemic, it's something that can be avoided. And the reason why I believe it can be avoided is because if you have safe places to where you're able to care and be cared for simultaneously, you don't have to worry about carrying a burden by yourself. If you don't have to, if you're able to carry somebody else's burden and then release that and dump it in a space that's cared for safely, you no longer have to be worried about this whole idea of compassion fatigue. Compassion fatigue happens when you're dragging burdens that aren't your own, as well as trying to handle your personal burdens.
Wow.
You don't have a safe dumping system, a safe place to allow that to happen. You continue to fall into these traps. So really what I look at is, how do I speak to not only what they're dealing with students, but dealing with within themselves. Like, if they're not personally motivated to succeed in life, they're not going to be able to be personally motivated to help these students succeed. If they're not finding joy in their own spaces, if they're frustrated with something that's happening at home, if they don't feel confident in the way they're speaking, if they don't even feel confident that they're ready to handle this, then they can't feel confident handling a student or a student bringing something to them. They have to feel safe, and they have to feel like what they're getting rid of. And I think that this is kind of a culture we're really creating, this candor culture, that where we can be honest, where we can be open, and where we can continually challenge the spaces that we're in. So when we're able to do that and address these things straightforward with each other, they don't have to feel like they're in this by themselves.
Yeah, man, I love that, man.
I'm definitely in a space to where I need community, right? And needing community is something that's not only going to help me thrive, but it helps everybody else thrive. Jesus didn't do ministry alone.
Yeah, man. I love that, man.
It was called to serving alone. And we can't expect to send people out into classrooms, send people out into small groups, send people out into ministry, and do it by themselves without feeling the capacity of community.
Man, y'all on it, man. I got all kind of fire emojis on the comments. Y'all helping people, man. Let me go here. Let me get into the nitty gritty of it. Listen, folks are going back to old places, but we need a new mentality for that place that we're going back to. And for that to happen, man, I think we need the superhero movie method. Here's what I mean. A superhero movie is only as good as the villain. Without a good villain, a superhero movie is pretty trash. If the whole movie is watching a guy go upstairs, that's not a good movie. It's not compelling, which means, as Sun Tzu said, know thy enemy. Let me ask y'all this, man. You guys are with kids, you're in the trenches, you're hearing their feedback, you're hearing what they're talking about. We have 1.2 million young people leaving the church every year, turning 17, 18, peace out, I'll never come back. And then when we ask them why, they say it's because we don't see the Jesus you're talking about in your life. They're saying I don't see evidence of what you're talking about in the lives of my own leaders, man. So as folks are getting back, man, I was talking with a buddy, and he was saying, man, how do we get everybody to come back? How do we get these new people? And I turned around and asked him, I said, man, I think the better question is, who were you not reaching before pandemic? Who were you not serving before 2020? And let's answer those questions. So let me ask you guys this, man, from your perspective, from Rag's perspective. There's a harvest, there's a problem, there's an issue. How did we get here, though? What was not working before that maybe we have the time to pop the hood, we have the time to check the tire pressure, maybe we needed to get off the road for a minute to check the condition of the vehicle? What was not working in youth ministry that got us in the condition where we are now?
Man, that's such a good question. I think people leave churches, programs, organizations, but very rarely do we see them leave relationships. And I think what the pandemic did is it exposed us for our lack of relationships, right? It's like, yes, you show up, so I'm with you on a weekly basis, but when you don't show up and we're not in relationship anymore, then that's the problem. I've said for years, really since man, probably college, I feel like, man, God's power is amazing. God is always changing lives. But the power of God will always change a life, but it's discipleship that keeps that life changed.
Wow.
Right? What we're seeing across the body of Christ is a lack of real discipleship. It's that follow me and I will make you fishers of men, or make you something that you're not. I'll take what you do as a fisherman. I'll add value, substance with that, and I'm going to help you grow in your depth. And then the other part is, I think we have not released young people to be the missionaries God is calling them to be, or to live on mission in the right way. And so I'm going to be real frank, because of our egos as a youth pastor, a youth leader, a worker, right? Because of my ego, and I want the stage and I want the mic and I want you to see how good I am. It's hard for me to release a young person who I know may not do it at the level that I can do it. But in me not releasing him, I'm not modeling real discipleship. Discipleship is not discipleship without a release. You got to be willing to let go of a young person that's growing and send them back, or allow them to grow in their giftings and the things God's called them to do. If you want to see this generation reached, empower young people to reach them. If we do that, Alex, if we spend the rest of our lives equipping students to reach more students, that million, I think, would decrease really quickly. The reason it's not is because it's still about our churches, programs, and platforms.
Listen, man, you just got uninvited to 5 conferences right there. You messing with folks right now, because what you're saying is we should do what the Bible says, that sheep beget sheep, and we keep trying to have shepherds give birth to sheep. Is what you're saying. I hear you, man. Let me go here, man, because I really want to make sure there's some time for you guys to talk about some things you guys got coming up. But I gotta ask this before we go there. It's really important to me that when folks come on here, we don't just talk about all the great things that are happening, but that we also share, man, those vulnerable places. And I think that's where the honesty and the push comes from. And so let me ask you this, man, and maybe Brandon can lead out, what is the pitfall that you've experienced in this work that you would want another leader to avoid? What is hey, here's where I blew it. While you're thinking about that, Jose, if you can get ready right after him, where he's looking backward, I want you to use your imagination and look forward. What is the pitfall that could happen to Rag? Where is it? Like, hey, if we aren't on it, this could happen to us. If we aren't sharp, if we aren't prayerful, this could happen to us, and we'll become that. So, Brandon, while you're looking back And Jose, while you're looking forward, what are those, hey, we're not perfect and we need prayer in each other and to sharpen each other's spaces? Let's go, B.
For me, one of the spaces that I'm really understanding that I blew it and that we all really can come up to another level in is this space of transparency. Honest relationships, honest conversations, and utilizing relationships for the capacity of what they're meant for can build, number one, this relationship platform, but it also keeps you in a position of safety. When you're able to walk together, to learn together, to love together, you now build this atmosphere where love engages love. And feel like they have a space where they belong. When I felt like I needed to protect me or protect others, so kept keeping myself closed, that put me in a position to where people weren't really getting the best of me.
Wow.
Imagine if there's a part of me that I'm not sharing, a part of me that's exposed. That means that I can only give 90%, 80% of my best. Imagine what the other 20% could do for somebody who feels broken in the same place. Feels in the same place.
Man, I love that, man. Transparency, that we need to make transparency normal again. Confess your sins one to another. Lean not to your understanding. Like, I think, what if God wasn't playing when he used words like brother and sister?
Come on, bro.
What if he wasn't just being cute? Like, what if he meant that? Yeah, man, I love that, man. I appreciate that transparency, that honesty, and how you've modeled that. Jose, man, going forward, all these organizational leaders, man, what could happen that could make, what could happen to make rag not rag?
Yeah, well, two things, man. Number one, I've been really convicted lately, Alex, and it really comes into where we're going. I've been convicted in this idea of not selling out. I feel like the Spirit of God has arrested me with this idea of what does it look like to sell out for a paycheck or for numbers or for an opportunity or for a platform. And the truth is, we did what we're doing now, before there was ever anything backing us or anybody backing us. And where we would go wrong in this next season is by trying to publicize this in a way that jeopardizes the potency of our program and our organization and our
man.
And so for me, man, one of those pitfalls is, man, not selling out. The second thing is keeping the main thing the main thing. And I know we hear that a lot. I hear a lot of people say that a lot, but here's what I mean. We're growing really rapidly. We went from 2 schools during the pandemic to 25 as of right now this year, right? That's a huge incline. So I think the thing is, reach the masses, but focus on the few, right?
Yeah.
We're okay with God expanding us and expanding our territory, but let's not forget that we're doing this for those that we want to be in close relationship with, that we can really lead and be intimate with in relationship and mentorship and discipleship, right? And so for us, it's man, that sellout thing, and then it's also, man, let's not lose heart of the few. There's a few that God will send us into every school that we go into. There's a few that we're there for. Now, we're going to do our program for a bunch of people, right?
Yeah.
There's a few, and if we can focus on that, then I don't think we can lose the potency of what we carry. And so to me, that'd be those future snares that we got to look out for.
Man, I'm so encouraged by that, man. Thank you so much, both of you, for sharing that, man. Let me go here, man. I really want to create some space because you guys aren't just doing some great things in the next school year. You guys have an event coming up for young men that I really wanted to create some space for you guys to talk about. Especially because you guys are doing like shoes and games and stuff, kind of my favorite things. So do us a favor, man, for everybody that's watching, and also for those who may rewatch this after the event. I really want to talk about this through the lens of ROI, which is return on investment. Why is it even valuable to have a manhood camp? Why is it even valuable to have an event for young men, young inner city men? Why is that why is that a worthwhile investment for RAG and for the church?
I mean, if you want to, do you want to look at the data? Do you want the numbers, statistics? Like, well, I mean, like, the reality, man, is if you look at the numbers and you look at where majority of crime comes from, majority of broken homes, majority of the effects of it, the majority of poverty, all this due to this dynamic of fathers and children's, especially when it comes to young men. This special dynamic that's missed, that completely has fallen apart, that continues to be cycle after cycle after cycle, has brought us to a generation who feels like they don't need anybody, who feels like they struggle alone, they deal with it alone, and they're in this position to where they feel like that promises aren't kept and that people aren't going to be there when it's all said and done. So they'll go on about it without anybody, without relationship, without Jesus, without a father, without any of these connections. This is what's been birthed. So the reality of the return on investment of a manhood camp is shifting the narrative. Yeah. Intentional shifting of the narrative of you can do it by yourself. There's no need for engagement. There's no need of shifting how you view what men have showed you before. There's no shifting how you view what people have told you the kind of man you're going to be. And no matter what your dad, your grandfather, the cycles you've seen in your household, in your society, in your culture, around your people, no matter what you've seen before, there has an opportunity for narrative shifting. You can be the one who puts a semicolon and shifts the story instead of allowing it to continue to flow.
Let me just say, Alex, I'll add this on a very practical side. As a youth pastor, a youth worker, we get to do in about a day what could potentially take you about 3 months of conversations to unpack. Literally a deep dive into some brokenness, some pain, and into again, what Brandon said, changing that narrative with some of your young men is extremely valuable. The other part is, because of the way we're doing it this year, it's a full out simulcast event. So you could, if you're in the SoCal area, you can come in person, no matter where you're at. You can meet us here for an overnight stay here in San Bernardino. Or maybe you're like, hey, I really want to be a part of Manhood Camp, but I'm not close by. Well, why don't you have your young men in your church stay overnight in your church, right? And stream the content directly from our services, and you unpack those conversations with them, because now you're doing a deep dive. And here's the last thing I'll say. Man, urban students for years have always got the short end of the stick because of budgets. For years, we couldn't afford the next level content and artists and things. So we got to settle or go to, a different type of cultural event to show our kids, expose them to something great. Well, here at Manhood Camp, man, we value excellence. And we value top of the line artists and speakers. And our lineup this year is undeniably probably one of the greatest lineups we've seen. And what it's going to do is, it's all for $100. You get to have your young men be a part of it. And that, whether that's 5 young men in your group or 50 young men in your group, it's just $100, not per person, per group. And so I don't think you could go wrong by saying, let me sacrifice 24 hours.
Wow.
These young men to deep dive into some real raw conversations that I think you'll see that return on the investment in those conversations and in the fruit that'll bear from that weekend.
Yeah, man, I love that, man. Do me a favor, man. Where folks that are watching prior to the event, man, where can they get information at? How can folks sign up for this?
It's at rescueageneration.com/events. Okay, make sure you do that /events. rescueageneration.com/events. You can register all your young men right there. We made it really easy for the youth pastor to register without having all the information they need for their young men. So we simplified the process the best we can. And you can register, whether you're in person or digital, you can register there and make sure we can get you the link to stream it for those 3 services.
Yeah, man, that sounds amazing, man. And that sounds like an awesome pitch to like the youth worker. Brandon, if I'm one of the kids, why am I coming to Manhood Camp? Why is this fun? What are we doing?
Man, so to let you know what we're doing, we're having not only awesome conversations and content, but we're doing games that'll engage you in fresh ways. Dodgeball tournaments. We're having Nerf gun tournaments. We're having video game trucks. We're having food.
Let's
We're
go.
having tents. We're sitting in a space to where we get to be around people that we usually don't get to have conversations about things that we probably want to talk about that we really don't feel safe talking about, and we get to do it together. You are not alone, and you get to see people in a common struggle, in a common suffer, and we get to walk together and engage in a healthy process and progress. You are going to have fun. You might get hot, it might smell a little bit, but you are going to be in a place that at the end of the day, when you leave this space, you're going to say, man, I had a great time and I feel changed.
Yeah.
Man, that's awesome, man. I appreciate it. Go ahead.
You can't go wrong with a good battle rap show.
I mean, it's battle rap. We
got they're gonna battle.
Crazy battle rap.
They're gonna go head to head. It's gonna be a lot.
And top tier battle rappers. Just
man.
They're Christian. These are top tier battle rappers, like top in the game, like legit top in the game, beating secular battle rappers who be cussing and doing all that, and they still get them. Like,
yeah, man. And I personally, man, would argue that some of the greatest minds, literature-wise, of our generation are these rappers, man. Some of these metaphors that they come up with are collegiate in their stature, man. That's really awesome, man. Let's do this, man. Before we get out of here, man, we got a couple minutes. I really want to give maybe Jose, man, give me 60 seconds, man. You are the billboard, man. You're the commercial for the certification process, man. It's the diadem. It's the pièce de résistance of what UYWI does, man. Do me a favor, give me 60 seconds, man. Encourage a youth worker why certification mattered to you, and why it's something they need to consider.
And it's an easy call, man. Look, I didn't grow up in the church, and I went to a Christian university studying youth ministry. I learned in 1 year how to do youth ministry better than doing 4 years at a university studying youth ministry. In 1 year, it changed the dynamic of how I thought about ministry, about making sure it's more about the spiritual growth of my kids than just trying to put on a bunch of programs. And even the conversations around funding and just next level things that came in there shaped so much about what I do even now actively here at Rescue Regeneration, but especially when I was a youth pastor. So I think it's a worthwhile investment. Man, take that 1 year and change literally the next 5 years of your life through that 1 year.
Man, that's I mean, I couldn't ask for nothing better than that. Listen, man, thank you guys so much for your time, for your presence, for your energy, and let me say this, man, for your sacrifice. I heard you earlier when you said, man, 5 years, and we was just out there grinding. 5 years is out there in the trenches. So, man, I'm so grateful that your faith survived the hard season, that your walk survived the tough part. I think that you get to kind of walk into the promised land because you were willing to cross the Jordan, man, and willing to walk around that Jericho. And not just because, ooh, look at your new building and ooh, look at your new organization. Tell me how many kids you guys are going to go.
So we'll speak to
on this tour
30,000, but we'll reach this year 50,000 students.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That made it worth the effort, man. Listen, man, thank you guys so much. If you haven't already, like, share, subscribe, head over to Rescue Regeneration /event, sign up for Manhood Camp, get involved, volunteer for the event. This is going to be amazing and life-changing. And listen, we do all that we do to rescue a generation. We need to prepare the church for who it's been called to be. My name is Alexander James. This is the representatives from RAG, Rescue Generation, Jose and Brandon. Thank you guys so much for watching here. Share this video with somebody else you think it will encourage, and we'll see you guys next month. Peace.